From the Cronkite studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Kyle Wilcox. Our Cronkite News reporters work in teams to cover specific issues important to all Arizonans. Those beats range from borderlands to business, from education to technology. Tonight we highlight stories from the government and justice teams, reports on law enforcement, changes on our valley freeways, and efforts to save one historic roadway.
The city of Phoenix has formally adopted a budget that calls for the hiring of more than 250 new police officers. Cronkite News reporter Holly Bernstein looked further into the hiring plan and what it means for the communities it serves.
Sergeant Vince Lewis says the hiring goal regarding diversity in the Phoenix Police Department is to mirror the community it serves. According to these stats provided by Operations Lieutenant Anthony Lopez, of the nearly 3,000 current sworn officers as of June 16, 2017, 2,070 are white, 114 are African American, 509 are Hispanic, 74 are Asian, 20 are Native American, and 366 are female. Maribel Silva's father was a police officer in Mexico, which in part inspired her to apply to join the Phoenix Police Department. Now as an applicant and potential recruit, she hopes to show that cops have a good side.
You know, like, oh, they do something bad and then you see it like right away, you know.
Silva is here at the police academy going through the agility training with other applicants, though Silva already officially completed her agility test. Phoenix's new budget calls for hiring more than 250 police officers during the 2017-18 fiscal year. The goal is to have 3,125 officers by June of 2018. Jeff Barton, the city's budget and research director, says the number of officers is down because Phoenix stopped hiring during the recession from 2008 to 2015.
So as a result of the Great Recession, we had to actually reduce the number of officers that we had because the resources to pay for them weren't there.
Barton says now that the economy is recovering, they have the ability to start hiring again. Silva says she thinks the current amount of officers is low and encourages others to join the police force.
One cop versus, you know, X amount of citizens. So, yeah, I mean, the more people I feel, the better.
Lopez also provided these stats which show the demographics of recruits and laterals hired as of June 19, 2017. Out of 622 recruits and hires, 404 are white, 34 are African American, 167 are Hispanic, 8 are Asian, 9 are Native American, and 113 are women. For information on how to apply, visit phoenix.gov/police. Holly Bernstein, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Police Department is looking to grow their force to a little over 3,000 sworn officers by next year. And while they work to get to that number, civilian workers fill in the gaps. Reporter Drew Marine tells us how these police assistants are helping the Phoenix Police Department.
Currently, there are over 100 police assistants that serve the Phoenix Police Department. Whether they're clerical or out on the street duties, they're there to alleviate patrol officers from lower priority calls.
What we anticipate is if we're able to get 16 additional police assistants assigned to the patrol division, we're looking at them taking 25,000 calls per year. So that equates immediately to about 9 sworn police officers.
Cynthia Ecker says the most important part of her job as a police assistant is when members of the community show their appreciation.
Time a citizen comes and thanks me for what I've done. So if I've done something that causes them to come thank me, then I feel like I've done what I'm supposed to do.
After the Phoenix Police Department lost about 600 sworn-in officers, City Manager Ed Zerker decided to budget just over $1 million to go towards hiring 16 new police assistants that will be deployed onto the streets of Phoenix. But even as helpful as police assistants may seem, President of the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association, Ken Crane, says this will not fully alleviate the police department staffing crisis.
I think hiring 16 is going to solve a lot of our manpower and staffing issues. Absolutely not. It's going to be a drop in the bucket. I mean, can we use the help? Absolutely. Will we take the help? Sure.
Crane says the assistants are helpful, but the Phoenix Police Department will need 1,000 more sworn-in officers than the city manager is hoping for. In Phoenix, Drew Marine, Cronkite News.
The Phoenix Police Department will be hiring these civilian workers over the summer with hopes they will be on the streets helping citizens by the end of the year.
For those who are deaf, calling 911 in an emergency isn't always an option, but some departments are now using a texting system. I spoke to Lake Havasu PD and a deaf specialist about how this helps those with speech and hearing difficulties.
They always have that fear of not having immediate access to emergency services.
Becca Bailey is deaf and knows firsthand what it's like not to be able to quickly communicate during an emergency. She shared her experiences with us through a translator. Right now, Lake Havasu City is the only city in the state to have 911 texting capabilities.
It's important in a lot of different situations. We've had a lot of positive feedback from the deaf, hard of hearing, and speech impaired community. This gives them direct and immediate access to our 911 services, but it can also be used in the event of an emergency where someone can't make a voice call.
Bailey says people of the deaf and hard of hearing community in the valley are frustrated that it's not available everywhere. Typically, people contact the police department by calling 911, but connecting with police through voice call isn't as practical for someone who is deaf or hard of hearing. In the event of an emergency, people of the deaf and hard of hearing community have to communicate with police through a third party. Becca Bailey said it took her nearly 3 hours to get help when she got into an accident. In order for someone who is deaf or hard of hearing to contact police, they have to first contact an interpreter through a video relay service. The VRS operator will then contact police and act as a middleman, relaying information back and forth.
So during text, we can text directly with the operator ourselves and have faster access to those services, and it results in a more effective communication.
Bailey says that the problem with VRS is that it doesn't work well without Wi-Fi, and there's a delay in getting information out quickly.
And there are some situations that have come up where they've tried to reach 911 even through a non-emergency phone number, and it's been a struggle and it's been very frustrating for people. So we do need to have that here in the state of Arizona.
The Arizona Commission for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing is hopeful that Maricopa County will have text to 911 within 6 to 12 months. Since implementing the system in April, Lake Havasu PD has received 11 text messages, with 2 of them being success stories.
New information tonight into the number of opioid overdoses in our state. As Tyler Paley reports, this is the first time the state health department is releasing these weekly numbers.
Governor Doug Ducey issued the executive order requiring medical professionals to report opioid overdoses just over a week ago. The state health department released the numbers this morning. There were 191 suspected opioid overdoses in Arizona in just 1 week, and 15 of those were fatal. The report also shows 18 cases of newborns showing withdrawal symptoms. Emergency responders tried to prevent 102 overdoses by administering doses of naloxone. The state says it's working to train more than 700 first responders on how to use naloxone. Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
Cronkite News is dedicated to covering the opioid crisis in Arizona and nationwide. Our documentary Hooked RX, From Prescription to Addiction, highlights the problem of painkillers here in our state. You can watch the documentary and find resources for getting help online at hookedrx.org.
Governor Doug Ducey signed a new law to help prosecute sex traffickers. But according to data and experts from the Office of Sex Trafficking Intervention Research at Arizona State University, many trafficking victims never press charges, leaving traffickers on the streets. But that isn't the only hurdle when tackling sex trafficking, as investigative reporter Megan Finnerty found out.
Exiting sex trafficking and finding a new normal is not easy for victims, and Cronkite News found providing support or justice for the victims is not any easier. The new research looked at 159 cases in Las Vegas, but sex trafficking is a national issue.
This nondescript building in Glendale is home to Streetlight USA, a transitional program designed to give love and support to victims of sex trafficking.
Go get breakfast and everything.
But the girls struggle as their life structure transitions from being controlled by their trafficker to needing to get up, get ready, and once again go to school.
We gotta get out of here.
They do want a normal life, and that this is not something that initially they understand that they've gotten involved with, but over time they do start to realize, once they see what a normal life is like, that their life is abnormal.
In these cottages, the program tries to cut the girls off from their high risk or trafficked past. Kaylin graduated the program after trying 11 other places, but at Streetlight, her transition stuck.
You know, really invite you in and make you feel like you should stay and like you should work on yourself and better your life.
Girls have been here ranging from days to years. But according to the CEO, problems outside of the fence, in licensing and identification processes, they can't provide the girls all the support they need here.
There's huge gaps in the system as to why it's not working. Most of the kids that we know that are trafficked, it's not on their record. Because unless a child's been criminalized, then how does the system recognize them?
Streetlight needs state approval for medical attention and separate approval for therapy. And more regulations leave empty beds.
We are a facility that can house 60 kids. Why is it that we only have 2 houses full?
When trafficking victims aren't identified, the oversight is harmful, preventing girls a chance at the Streetlight program. In Phoenix, Dignity Health launched a campaign to train medical staff to notice the signs of human trafficking.
I've worked on victims of human trafficking and never realized what it was. I knew something was wrong, but there was something there that didn't click.
The Arizona Human Trafficking Council has guidelines for best practice, addressing that trafficking is an extremely complex issue.
For how communities can work together to address trafficking issues in a way that's not only trauma-informed and victim-centered, but also in a way that we make sure that our law enforcement are able to hold perpetrators accountable.
But that's an issue as well, due to both the victims and the lack of prosecution. Dominique Rose-Sepowitz is the director at the Office of Sex Trafficking Intervention Research at ASU, and her team looked at 159 Las Vegas cases in 2014. Only 24% of victims were cooperative concerning collection of evidence or aiding in the arrest and prosecution of their trafficker, and only 16.3% of minors trafficked were cooperative. Nearly 75% of the cases were never filed, and 95% of the traffickers had previous arrest histories.
We find them a year later in another case. They're victimizing young people. They're doing really violent, horrible, torturesome things to them, and maybe that victim doesn't participate either, and then back out into the community that trafficker goes.
Creating a vicious cycle. Traffickers abuse more girls, creating more victims. But red tape keeps organizations from being able to transition these girls from victims to survivors.
My question becomes, do we as a society really want to support these girls? Because if we do, we really need to make changes in how they are being served and how they are being identified.
We reached out to the Arizona Department of Health Services to further understand the restrictions in licenses, but we are unable to get a response. With the investigative team, Megan Finnerty, Cronkite News.
Officially from 36, and he hooks it in! Arizona State wins! Keeping one deep, and it is caught! Jalen Strong! Do you believe it?
Today, there are monuments across the state in remembrance of the battles and lives lost. But some in the community feel those memorials are simply racist. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Paley is in the broadcast center with both sides of this issue.
Next Saturday will mark the 2-year anniversary of the Charleston church massacre that left 9 African Americans dead. It sparked a national conversation, including one here in Arizona, about Confederate memorials. Tonight, community leaders are calling for action from the governor.
It's a tool of terror, and we're asking, please remove these monuments.
Confederate monuments and memorials have become a hot-button issue around the country. Just weeks ago, New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu ordered all memorials in his city to be taken down. Now, Valley community activists and the NAACP want the same done here in Arizona.
We can't go through our daily lives honoring symbols of hate, symbols of separation, symbols of segregation designed to tear us apart and deepen our wounds.
But some see the monuments as simply remembering a part of American history.
History is a matter of perception, and often that perception is based on what is somebody is able to physically see.
There are 6 monuments on state land across Arizona, and more than 300 Confederate soldiers are buried here. But for Bolding, that time in history is for the books.
I completely believe that the Confederacy is a part of American history, and I believe that our children should know about the history of America. And I believe when you think about where our history is most prevalent, it's in social studies books and it's at the museums.
Again, having something to remember so as not to erase it completely from our historical consciousness as a country is my opposition to the issue.
Representative Boulding did send a letter to Governor Doug Ducey asking for executive action to have the monuments taken down. He said he'll keep fighting in any way necessary, including by introducing a bill at the legislature. But he hopes the governor will put pen to paper and remove any remnants of Confederate monuments from state land. In the broadcast center, Tyler Paley, Cronkite News.
In just 2 years, towns along Route 66 could lose out on some valuable funding meant to help revive aging areas along the historic road. While that's still a little ways away, there's still concern about the upcoming date. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger joins us in the newsroom with what kind of changes are happening over there. Tyler?
Before there were interstates, U.S. highways crisscrossed the United States, linking small town after small town. Route 66 was built more than 90 years ago, but it's still an important symbol of America today, a symbol that some worry is now in danger. Not far from Interstate 40 west of Flagstaff sits a reminder of what was.
Route 66 is about yesterday. And not just in Seligman, from Chicago to Santa Monica.
90-year-old Angel Delgadillo has spent the majority of his life on Route 66. Today, he still rides his bike across it.
Route 66 will be here forever. Judging from the people that are stopping just here in Seligman, from all parts of the world.
Back in its heyday, thousands of cars would drive down this very stretch of road every single day. But once Route 66 was bypassed by an interstate just a few hundred yards away, those cars stopped coming through towns like Seligman. Fast forward more than 30 years after Route 66 was decommissioned, a program created to preserve the road and landmarks along it is set to expire in 2 years.
Route 66 is where America has come from. And if we can remember that, we can always have a vision and a focus on where we are going.
If the program ends, there's hope that the road will get a new designation as a National Historic Trail.
It's America of yesterday, and this is where you're going to see what America is all about. So if you really want to get your kicks, get on Route 66.
For Angel and Myrna, no matter what happens, they know Route 66 will be here long after they're gone.
Route 66 today is live and well, and people always told us, oh, it's just a fad. This road is not a fad. This road is a part of who we are.
If Route 66 would get the National Historic Trail designation, money would be set aside every year to continue to preserve the road and its lasting legacy. Tyler Finger, Cronkite News.
The Arizona Department of Transportation is in the midst of an improvement project that should help them and drivers on the road. Cronkite News reporter Tyler Finger is in the broadcast center with what ADOT is doing. Tyler?
ADOT is installing new sensors along portions of several valley highways that will track traffic flow. While these types of devices aren't new to Arizona's highway system, these sensors could be welcome news for drivers. Tonight on Valley Freeways, traffic.
I retired in 2003, and one of the greatest pleasures is not having to commute during rush hour.
It takes too long to get where you're going. It's just bad.
ADOT is in the middle of installing new sensors that they hope could eventually fix some of those traffic troubles drivers see when on the road.
It helps us keep the traffic moving and then also look ahead using that data to make decisions about what are the best candidate locations, say, for widening or adding extra lanes.
Doug Ninsel says these sensors, along with other technology, provide a lot of value to ADOT by helping spot trouble spots on the road as quickly as possible.
Because we have the sensors in the pavement, we're able to really judge what is going on there as far as the conditions.
But ADOT says drivers will also see a benefit from these sensors.
We're able to utilize the data on traffic flow and the computers translate that into the travel times that you wind up seeing.
Drivers say the travel time signs are helpful.
When I have to go to work and be there on time, that helps.
They seem to be accurate when I'm driving. Accurate if you're going the speed limit. If you're going above the speed limit, you actually do better time.
ADOT told me today that the installation work is almost done. All that's left is portions of I-17 in Phoenix, which they say should be done by the end of the month. Live in the broadcast center, Tyler Fingert, Cronkite News.
On an average day, nearly 3 people are killed on Arizona roads, according to recent data. Those numbers have been going up over the last few years. Reporter Tyler Fingert has the story from our nation's capital.
The Federal Highway Administration says the number of miles driven on U.S. roads topped 3.2 trillion miles last year. With those extra miles comes a rise in fatal crashes. 2016 was the deadliest year on roads from coast to coast in nearly a decade. The National Safety Council says just over 40,000 people lost their lives.
This is a terrible trajectory for our country, but there are a lot of things that we can do, all of us individually and collectively, to help drive down those numbers.
In 2016, almost 1,000 people died in car crashes throughout Arizona. That's up almost 25% in just 2 years.
Well, unfortunately, the news is not good in Arizona either. And the national average, we went up about 6% in fatal crashes in 2016. In Arizona, that number's 8%.
It's not just a problem in Arizona. Here on the streets of Washington, D.C., the numbers are up as well. And there's concern it could get even worse if drivers continue to drive distracted or speed.
If states crack down on some of the reasons that we see for the most number of fatalities, things like impaired driving or speeding, really could see this number come down a lot.
The Arizona Department of Transportation is pulling the issue into the headlights by using creative freeway signs to highlight the problem. Messages that may be clever enough to grab your attention as the problem continues to head in the wrong direction.
I don't think any of us will ever be satisfied until we reach 0 deaths on our roadways. We can do and we must do much better.
Hope for improvement as a record number of people hit the road. In Washington, Tyler Fingert, Cronkite News. As the weather heats up, people are turning to pools to cool down, and every public pool has to be inspected before you can jump in. Madison Connor went along with those inspectors to see what they are concerned about this summer.
I went along with the Maricopa County Environmental Services Department as they inspected enclosures, gates, and most importantly, water quality levels to keep families safe in and out of the water.
Water safety is always a top concern here in Arizona, but this summer there is a new problem being added to the list: crypto. Crypto is a microscopic parasite and is the leading cause of waterborne illness. I got to join Inspector Zach Crater on a recent inspection, and his job is not only to check the safety of the facility, but also the water.
And then we'll also be checking the chemicals. We'll be checking the chlorine levels, the pH, and the alkalinity.
Last year alone, crypto cases more than doubled nationwide. Honor Health physician Janine Hinn says the easiest way to avoid the parasite is to take proper care of the water levels.
This reason, a lot of the viruses, bacteria, parasites that we do get exposed to are easily managed or killed or whatever, addressed if the chemical levels are up to par. There are some that can be easily filtered from the system. So I don't know if you've ever been to a water park and they have this break where you have to take 15 minutes, get out the pool. If they're doing that, they're doing the right thing. They're checking levels, they're checking their filtration system, checking their pumps, all of that sort.
The biggest thing facilities need to be doing is consistently adding chlorine to the water. Chlorine is eaten up by UV light. Inspector Zach Crater with the Maricopa County Environmental Services Department says even the average amount of chlorine is not enough to battle a crypto outbreak.
It doesn't take very much to get someone sick, but it's very difficult to get rid of. It's chlorine resistant. The CDC has recommendations out there. I believe it's if you think you have crypto, they will tell you you need to raise the chlorine levels in your pool up to 20 parts per million for 12.75 hours, I believe.
Public pools are checked once a month in order to ensure safety for all members, but it is up to the community as well to practice safe swimming protocols such as washing their hands before eating and not swallowing pool water.
Swimming is a great way to escape the heat this summer, but make sure you are following safe swimming practices to avoid illnesses like the cryptoparasite. In the broadcast center, Madison Connor, Cronkite News.
If you take your dog for a walk, you can now help the police. Cronkite News reporter McKenna Delgarno finds out about a new Dog Walkers Watch program in Chandler.
Next time you take your dog out for a walk, Chandler police are asking you to be the eyes and ears for the community.
It's the first ever Dog Walker Watch program in Chandler. Its goal is to teach people who walk their furry friends how to identify and report suspicious behavior.
It's not necessarily the person that's suspicious, it is what they're doing.
Robin Atwood is the crime prevention officer for Chandler. She says oftentimes when people see suspicious behavior, they don't know what to do.
They're always hesitant. It's like, should I call or shouldn't I call? We're telling them, yes, definitely call.
I'm already going out every morning, so I might as well learn properly what I'm supposed to be looking for.
The training filled up fast with people like Judy Roche who want to know what is considered suspicious behavior.
I've noticed that car's not supposed to be there.
If they're looking in windows or trying car door handles, looking in mailboxes, or looking or going to the rear portion of the property, someplace that they shouldn't be.
If you see behavior like that, make sure you call police right away. You'll then be asked to answer what you saw, where you are, and what the suspicious person looks like. Atwood says they are asking for community help because of how big the city of Chandler is.
I want to learn more about being proactive in my community, and this is a great opportunity with walking my dog.
95% of arrests are a result of people calling the police. In Chandler, McKenna Delgarno, Cronkite News.
Due to the popularity of the class, Chandler police have extended 2 more training days on April 24th and 29th.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thanks for joining us. For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.